Have you ever wondered how to figure out how much food you need to reach your goals? Today we are going to tackle how to set your fuel tank to reach your goals. And when I say set your fuel tank, what we're really talking about is how much food do I need to reach my goals? Like, what amount of food, these calories, carbs, protein, fat, all these things, like what do I need in order to reach my goals? We're gonna use a car analogy. We're gonna talk about setting your fuel tank to reach your goals as if you're filling up your car for a tank of gas. So, we're gonna dissect what it takes. And so, I want you to bear with me here on these drawings. So, this is a 2019 brand new Cadillac, as you can tell. And gas is our cars, our vehicles' fuel, right? We're gonna say that this vehicle, it's got a 12-gallon tank, okay? So, when we come over here and now we look at our fuel tank, we'll say that, this is you today, and food is your fuel source, right? So you see the comparison. We have a little more of a complex fuel tank. It's not a set size. We can put as much in it or as little in it as we want. What I mean by that is we can overeat and gain weight, or we can undereat and lose weight. And so we have a fuel tank, we just get to choose what level, how much fuel we're putting into it. Knowing how much fuel you need to reach your goals, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break down how to set your fuel tank. So, you've heard calories, you've probably heard about macros, and if you don't know what to focus on, it can be confusing, right? So, before we get over here, I want to take that same car, right? So it's a 12-gallon tank. We put gas into the vehicle, makes its way to the engine. And as the engine's using it for fuel to make sure that your vehicle can go where you need to go, it gets converted. It gets used up. And what do you see? What do you know? Exhaust comes out, right? Now, when we step over here and we look at our fuel tank and we look at the fuel that we're putting in, so food is fuel, right? Whether you want to learn what food is, whether you care to know, every time that you're eating food, you're putting fuel into your system. You may not care how much fuel you're putting in, but you're stressed out about why you're gaining weight. Well, you're putting too much fuel into your tank. Now, to set your fuel tank, you're going to do something so simple. You're going to download a free calorie tracking app. As you can tell, that's the MyFitnessPal app. When you're in MyFitnessPal, you're going to choose if you want to maintain your weight, if you want to gain weight, or if you want to lose weight. What it's doing there is it's figuring out what size of a fuel tank you need for whatever goal that you have. Yeah, sure. You may hear some trainers that are saying, hey, well, you really need to focus on figuring out your BMR, and then you need to know that your TDEE is important, and well, then there's a multiplier for if you want to lose weight or gain weight and your activity level, and you're like, this is confusing. Hey, technology is an awesome thing. MyFitnessPal does all of that for you by the questions that you fill out. So, my bet is you're here because you just want to learn how to do food, how to lose that 15 pounds or that 50 pounds, or how to actually gain some muscle. You just want to figure out how to do food for your goal. So use MyFitnessPal. Set it up, figure out what your fuel tank is. So when food is coming in, when we're putting food in to our system, into our tank, It doesn't come out as exhaust. What happens is we eat some food, we fuel up, and then our body uses it based off of the type of fuel that we're putting in. So when we talk about the calories and the macros, I'm sure that it gets a little overwhelming, it gets a little confusing. Calories is simply just to figure out how much fuel you need to be putting in your system to reach your goals. After that, it's all about macros and your macronutrients. So, like exhaust is, to the car analogy, the fuel coming in, it gets used, exhaust comes out. When we put food in our system, we're putting in, whether you know it or not, you're putting in something that may have a little of some or a lot of the other, but you're putting in fuel that either has carbs, protein, or fat, or maybe has all three within it. Those are your macronutrients. Those are your 3 fuel sources. So we'll say carbs, protein, fat. When they come in, our body utilizes them. And calories are the unit of measurement for those fuel sources. So when you're hearing somebody talk about calories or macros and what really matters, calories is just a unit of measurement to measure food, to measure energy, really, because food is our fuel. It gives us energy. So we have carbs, we have protein, and we have fat. Whether you know it or not, whether you choose to, those 3 things are coming in or going in your system every time you eat. So now we'll talk about your macros, so your carbs, your protein, and your fat. So after we figure out what our fuel tank is, after we figure out how many calories, how much energy, calories are energy, we need on a given day to reach our goals, if we really want to make sure that we're losing body fat and not just losing weight, meaning we're losing that definition, that tonality that we want to keep, we need to optimize our fuel sources. There's 3 fuel sources: carbs, protein, and fat. Again, your macronutrients. So we like to keep things super simple at the Fueling Academy. Carbs, they do one thing extremely well. They're our energy source. It's what gives you energy. Protein, it builds and maintains muscle. What does fat do? It regulates hormones. Again, we could get into the science of what they really do, like just a nice long bullet-pointed list, but you don't need to know all that. You just need to know how to use food to reach your goals and finally stop stressing out about food. Am I right? So, when we know that carbs are our energy source, we kind of need it in our system. Now, I'm sure you've heard of, keto, paleo, Mediterranean diet, all kinds of different things out there. And you're like, well, they do like a no carb thing, or they cut this out. I want you to think of the fuel, the food that you're putting into your system as basic, simple science and advanced science. So we have a really sophisticated system. Our body is so smart and it's so adaptive that if you decide to not eat any carbs for a given day, you will not die. Your body will spend extra energy and convert these 2 over to glucose. Again, we're getting a little too sciencey, a little too nerdy now, but it'll convert these over to do carbs job. It's going to survive. But you don't need to do all of that. In order to reach your goals, it's really simple. Your fuel tank is going to cause you to gain weight, maintain weight, or lose weight. Focusing on your macros are going to ensure that you're going to optimize the results because they each have a job in your system. Carbs and fat cannot build or maintain, repair lean tissue. They can't do it. So if you don't have protein coming in, you're not keeping that toned look that you want or that you're trying to achieve. It's not going to happen. If you're not getting dietary fat, things probably aren't working very well in your system. You may notice that you're getting sick a lot. You also may notice that you're getting injured if you're working out, especially if you're doing a lot of high intensity workouts. Maybe your hair's not growing. A lot of things happen when you don't get enough dietary fat. So how do you optimize your fuel sources? This is where it gets into the gray area. So anybody that tells you that, like, hey, it's a one size fits all, you gotta, boom, hit these numbers, these percentages, they're misleading you. And they may have been misled themselves, so don't hold it against them. What we like to do, again, keep it simple. You need carbs. Carbs are your friend. It should be the most significant amount of fuel sources that you're getting in every meal. So we start off at 50% of your fuel being carbs. And then we jump over to protein. We recommend that you start off at 30% of your energy, of your fuel, comes from protein. And then 20% of the remaining comes from fat. Again, it's a gray area, but here's some things you need to know about your macros. If you're thinking of a low-carb diet, never ever go below 40%. Your body needs energy, okay? These keto diets, these different things, they were designed for medical purposes for people with medical issues. The reason you lose weight on keto is because your fuel tank is set up at a deficit. It's not because of your ratios. Again, we get into advanced chemistry with the fuel sources and how they're being utilized when we cut something out. But if we just want to have clarity on how to do food and how to look at things and be successful, keep it simple. It's simple science. Simple science gives you amazing results time after time after time. So you can play around with these, but carbs should be your primary source. You don't want your protein to get too low because you want to ensure that you're getting enough protein steadily throughout the day to repair your lean mass, your muscle. Hopefully this video was helpful and you learned something from it. You got some type of clarity when it comes to calories and macros, kind of how they work together. Again, calories are simply the amount of fuel. When you're looking at calories, it's simply the amount of fuel you need in a given day, because it is just the unit of measurement for the food, the fuel that we are eating. The fuel sources that we eat are carbs, protein, and fat. So when you're talking about food and reaching your goals and what to focus on, it's only your macronutrients. The only time you have to focus on calories is when you're setting your fuel tank up. That's it. Then forget about it. Focus on 3 simple numbers, and it's kind of like 3rd grade math. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming not only are you older than a 3rd grader, but you're smarter than a 3rd grader, and you can do some simple math. But here's the catch. It does require you to be proactive and to think during your journey. You can't just let life take control, because when that happens, you're not ensuring that you're reaching your goals. You're hoping and wishing for a miracle. When you focus on the simple math of food, you always reach your goals. You always get the body that you deserve to have. If you liked this, give us a share. The next video that you're going to see is going to be how do we apply this in a real life situation, and how do we create a meal plan? How do you split it all up throughout your day? And we'll dive in more of the learning side of meal planning and eating day in and day out to reach your goals. So hey, thanks again for tuning in. And if you could use some help with learning how to do food to reach your goals, the Fueling Academy is just for you. And we give you all the tools you need to finally understand how to do food and how to get lasting results. You're going to become, you're steps away from becoming a food accountant. and understanding what it takes to reach your goals. We'll see you in the next video.